Marriage isn't a fairy tale. I used to think it was. I used to believe that love was enough, that as long as two people were committed, they could get through anything. I believed in forever. I don't believe in it anymore. I stand in the doorway of our living room, watching Olivia as she scrolls through her phone, her face illuminated by the cold glow of the screen. She hasn't looked up once since I walked in. She hasn't acknowledged me. Hell, I'm not even sure she noticed I came home. Hey, I say, my voice hesitant, testing the waters. She doesn't look up. Hey, she mutters. Her tone is flat as the sound of her fingertip tapping the screen. That's it. That's the extent of our conversation. I glance at the clock on the wall. 8:17 p.m. Emma, our 6-year-old daughter, is already in bed. I had tucked her in an hour ago, brushing her hair back and pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Good night, sweetheart," I had whispered, and she had smiled at me, her small arms wrapping around my neck as if she knew I needed it. Olivia used to be the one who did bedtime. She used to read Emma's stories, do silly voices, tickle her belly until she giggled so hard she could barely breathe. But that Olivia doesn't exist anymore. I take a step closer. "Can we talk?" She lets out a loud, exaggerated sigh, the kind that makes it clear I'm annoying her, and finally sets her phone down. "About what, Nathan?" she asks, not even trying to hide her irritation. I hesitate, not because I don't know what to say, but because I don't know if it will even matter. I could tell her that I feel like I'm married to a stranger. I could tell her that I miss her so much it physically hurts. I could tell her that I lie awake at night beside her, staring at the ceiling, wondering how we got here. How the woman I fell in love with became this cold, distant version of herself. Instead, I say, "I just feel like we haven't connected in a while." She rolls her eyes, and something in my chest tightens. "Nathan, I'm tired," she says, rubbing her temple as if this conversation is physically painful for her. "Can we not do this tonight?" It's always tonight. Always later. A later that never comes. I clench my jaw, swallowing down the rejection, the bitterness that rises like bile in my throat. I want to fight. I want to ask her why she never touches me anymore. Why she looks at me like I'm an inconvenience instead of her husband. Why she doesn't even try. But I don't. Because I already know how this ends. I run a hand through my hair, exhaling slowly. Okay. It's all I can manage. It's all I ever say anymore. Just okay. I turn and walk toward the stairs, the weight of 6 years of loneliness pressing down on my shoulders. I don't have to ask if she's coming to bed. I already know she won't. She'll stay on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, staring at that damn phone until she falls asleep. And I'll go upstairs alone, lying on my side of the bed, staring at the empty space beside me. Once upon a time, we used to fall asleep tangled in each other's arms. Now, she can't even stand to be in the same room with me. And I don't know how much longer I can take it. You don't realize how much you need intimacy until it's gone. I'm not just talking about sex, though that's part of it. I mean the little things. The way her fingers used to trace patterns on my arm while we lay in bed. The way she'd lean into me absent-mindedly while brushing her teeth. The way she'd kiss me just because. Those things? They disappeared long before the sex did. And now, 6 years later, I feel like a starving man watching everyone else feast. I lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, the sheets cool and empty beside me. Olivia never comes to bed with me anymore. She used to make excuses. "I'm just watching one more episode. I'm not tired yet. My back hurts." Now she doesn't even bother pretending. She just stays downstairs, wrapped in a cocoon of silence, her phone her only companion. I roll onto my side, facing her empty pillow. 6 years. 6 years since I felt truly desired. Since I felt wanted, needed. Since my wife has touched me with anything resembling passion. At first, I was patient. After Emma was born, I understood that Olivia's body had changed, that exhaustion had taken hold of her, that she needed time. I gave her space. I told myself it was just a phase. That one day she'd reach for me again. But she never did. I tried everything. Romantic dates. Surprise gifts. Weekend getaways. Just the two of us. I told her she was beautiful, that I still wanted her, that I missed us. Every time, I was met with the same tired sigh, the same empty look in her eyes. She would pat my hand, say something vague like, "It's not you. I'm just not in the mood," and that was it. And so I stopped trying. Because how many times can a man be rejected before he stops asking? The worst part isn't the loneliness. It's the feeling of being unwanted. The realization that the one person who's supposed to love you more than anyone can't even stand to touch you. It does something to you. It eats away at your confidence, at your sense of self. I look in the mirror now, and I don't see the man I used to be. I used to feel strong, attractive, like I had something to offer. Now I feel invisible. And it's not like Olivia is repulsed by intimacy, just intimacy with me. I see the way she laughs with her friends, the way she dresses up for a night out, makeup perfectly applied, perfume lingering in the air. The way her body still moves with that effortless grace that once drove me insane with want. But none of it is for me anymore. I've become the roommate, the provider, the man who fixes the leaky sink and picks up groceries and makes sure the bills are paid. The husband in name only. And no one cares. Because men aren't supposed to need affection, right? We're not supposed to crave touch, to ache for connection. Society tells us to tough it out, to be real men and suck it up. But I am so fucking tired of feeling like I don't exist. I turn onto my stomach, pressing my face into the pillow, trying to will the ache away. But it doesn't leave. It never does. Because love isn't just words. It's not just shared responsibilities and a history together. It's hands that reach for you in the middle of the night. It's a kiss that lingers, a look that makes you feel wanted. And without that, marriage is nothing more than a slow death. And I am already buried. There's a moment in every marriage where things shift, where the weight of everything unsaid becomes too much to carry. For me, that moment came on an ordinary night. I had spent the entire day waiting, hoping. Not for anything extravagant, not even for sex. Just something. A touch. A look. A sign that I was more than just another piece of furniture in this house. Emma had gone to bed hours ago, and Olivia was in the kitchen, washing dishes. I stood in the doorway, watching her, the warm light casting a soft glow over her features. She still looked like the woman I married, but she felt like a stranger. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to push past the fear of rejection. I walked up behind her, wrapping my arms around her waist, pulling her against me. She stiffened instantly. "Nathan," she said, her voice flat, exhausted. I ignored it, leaning down to press a kiss to her neck, inhaling the scent of her shampoo. God, I missed this. Missed her. She sighed and pulled away, turning off the faucet and stepping out of my grasp. Not tonight. It was automatic, like muscle memory. Not tonight. Not tomorrow. Not ever. I swallowed hard, shoving my hands into my pockets. Liv, I hesitated, my voice barely above a whisper. Do you even love me anymore? Her shoulders tensed. She turned around, arms crossed, eyes guarded. Don't start this. I let out a bitter laugh. Start what? A conversation? An honest fucking conversation about the fact that my wife hasn't touched me in 6 years. She rolled her eyes. Rolled her goddamn eyes. You're being dramatic. That's when something inside me snapped. Dramatic? I took a step forward, my pulse hammering in my throat. Liv, I have begged you to talk to me, to go to therapy, to do something, anything, to fix this. But you don't care. You just shut me out. Like I don't even fucking matter. She exhaled sharply, rubbing her temple. I don't owe you anything, Nathan. The words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest. I don't owe you anything. I stared at her, my mouth slightly open, trying to process what she had just said. Trying to accept that after everything, after years of devotion, of patience, of loving her even when she made it impossible, this was how she saw me. Not as a husband, not as a man with needs and feelings. Just another obligation she had long since stopped caring about. I stepped back, shaking my head. My hands were trembling. You really believe that, don't you? Silence. She didn't deny it. She just stood there, arms still crossed, jaw tight, waiting for me to drop it like I always did. But this time, I didn't. This time, I turned and walked away. Because suddenly, I realized something that should have been obvious all along. I was the only one fighting for this marriage. and I was done bleeding for someone who couldn't even bother to notice. There's a kind of loneliness that doesn't hit you all at once. It creeps in slowly, wrapping around your chest like a weighted blanket, pressing down on you until one day, you wake up and realize you haven't felt warmth in years. That's where I was. For weeks after our fight in the kitchen, Olivia and I barely spoke. Not that we ever had much to say anymore. She carried on with her life as if nothing had happened, and I just felt empty. I stopped trying, stopped reaching for her, stopped hoping. The moment she said, "I don't owe you anything," something inside me shut off. I spent more time at work, finding excuses to stay late. It was easier than going home to a house that felt more like a museum of a dead marriage. A place where everything looked the same but held no life, no love. And that's when I met her. It started as nothing, just a conversation. Her name was Ava. She was a new hire in the marketing department, confident, funny, and the kind of person who made everyone around her feel lighter. She wasn't just beautiful, she was present. And that was something I hadn't felt in years. It began with small things. A quick chat by the coffee machine, a laugh shared over a bad joke. And then one evening, after another long day, we found ourselves alone in the office. I was gathering my things when she leaned against my desk, smiling. "You've been staying late a lot," she said, her voice soft, curious. I shrugged. "Easier than going home." Ava tilted her head, studying me. "That bad?" I hesitated, then let out a breath. "Worse." For a long moment, she didn't say anything, just looked at me with something I hadn't seen in a long time, understanding. "You deserve to be happy, Nathan," she said finally. It was such a simple statement, but it cracked something inside me. Because when was the last time I had been happy? I didn't know, and that terrified me. I forced a chuckle, shaking my head. "That's a dangerous thing to say." She smiled, but there was something in her eyes, something knowing. "It's only dangerous if it's true." And just like that, the first crack in my self-control appeared. I didn't do anything that night. I didn't touch her, didn't cross any lines. But for the first time in 6 years, I felt alive. And I knew, deep down, that it was only a matter of time before I did something I couldn't take back. The thing about temptation is that it never kicks down the door. It slips in quietly, like a whisper in the back of your mind. It starts as a thought. Harmless, right? And before you know it, you're standing at the edge of something you swore you'd never do. That's exactly how it happened. It was another late night at the office. The kind that used to drain me but had started feeling like a relief. A reason to stay away from home. A reason to stay near her. Ava sat across from me, kicking off her heels and sighing dramatically. I swear, if I have to look at one more spreadsheet, my brain is going to melt. I chuckled, rubbing my temple. "Tell me about it." We were the last ones in the building, the office bathed in the soft glow of desk lamps and the hum of computers still running. It felt safe, quiet, a space where I wasn't just Nathan the husband. I was just me. Ava stretched her arms over her head, her blouse lifting just slightly, and I looked away fast, my jaw tightening. This was dangerous. I knew it, but knowing didn't change the way my body reacted when she leaned forward, resting her chin on her hand, studying me. "You always look so tense," she said softly. I let out a breath, forcing a smile. "Guess that's what happens when your marriage is on life support." She frowned. "Still no change?" I shook my head. At this point, I don't even think she wants to fix it. Silence stretched between us, heavy with unspoken words. Then, she reached across the desk, her fingers brushing against mine. I froze. It was the smallest touch, barely anything, but it set my entire body on fire. I should have pulled away. I should have. Instead, I looked up and saw something in her eyes. Something warm, something dangerous, something I hadn't seen in Olivia's eyes in years. And I was so fucking tired of feeling nothing. "I don't want to overstep," Ava murmured, her fingers still resting against mine. "But I don't think you deserve this, Nathan." My throat tightened. I should have told her to stop. I should have stood up and walked away. But I didn't. Because the truth was, I needed this. I needed to feel wanted. Needed to remember what it was like to have someone look at me like I mattered. So when Ava stood, walking around the desk toward me. I didn't stop her. And when she placed her hands on my shoulders, her touch soft but firm, I closed my eyes and exhaled. When was the last time someone had touched me just because they wanted to? I didn't know. And that was all the justification I needed. So when she leaned in, her breath warm against my skin, I didn't pull away. I let it happen. And the moment her lips met mine, everything else faded. For the first time in 6 years, I wasn't just existing. I was alive. The moment Ava's lips touched mine, my mind went completely blank. No thoughts, no hesitation, no guilt, just feeling. Her hands slid up my chest, warm and careful, like she was memorizing the shape of me. My own hands hovered at her waist, unsure, hesitant, like I was still clinging to the last thread of self-control. But then she deepened the kiss, and that thread snapped. I pulled her against me, months, years, of neglect pouring out of me all at once. I wasn't just kissing her. I was grasping for something I'd been starving for without even realizing just how deep the hunger ran. A soft sound escaped her throat, and it sent a bolt of heat straight through me. This is what it's supposed to feel like. Not obligation, not routine. Desire. Pure, unfiltered, undeniable want. And God, how I had missed it. Her fingers tangled in my hair, and I groaned into her mouth, my body pressing against hers before I even realized I was moving. The hunger inside me was consuming, urgent, reckless. Then, like a slap to the face, reality crashed back in. I was still married. I tore myself away, my chest heaving, my hands gripping the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles turned white. Ava stood there, breathless, her lips red and parted, her eyes dark with something that made my stomach twist. For a split second, I thought about closing the distance again, about giving in fully. But guilt was a funny thing. It always found a way to seep in, no matter how starved you were. Ava. My voice was hoarse, wrecked. She took a slow step back, her hands falling to her sides. I know, she whispered. I know. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I scrubbed a hand down my face, trying to steady my breathing. What the f did I just do? Ava swallowed, glancing toward the door, as if debating whether to leave or stay. Then, after a long moment, she looked at me again, really looked at me. And what I saw in her expression wasn't anger or regret. It was understanding. You've been alone for a long time, haven't you? She asked softly. I exhaled shakily, my throat tight. You have no idea. She hesitated, then reached for my hand, squeezing it gently before letting go. Then don't beat yourself up for wanting to be seen, Nathan. I should have said something. I should have told her this was a mistake, that it couldn't happen again, that I wasn't this kind of man. But I didn't, because part of me knew that this wasn't over. Not even close. I didn't sleep that night. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my body tense, my mind replaying every second of what had happened in the office with Ava. The heat of her lips, the softness of her hands, the way my body had responded like it had been waiting for that exact moment for years. And the worst part? I didn't regret it. I should have. I should have been drowning in guilt, tossing and turning over the fact that I had just broken the one vow I had spent 6 years trying to uphold. But instead, all I felt was the phantom warmth of her touch lingering on my skin. I turned my head to the side, staring at the empty space beside me. Olivia hadn't even come to bed again. She was probably passed out on the couch, wrapped in a blanket, her phone still in her hand. She wouldn't notice that I hadn't touched her in weeks. She wouldn't notice that I was lying here, my heart hammering for another woman. And even if she did, would she even care? The next morning, I found her in the kitchen, dressed in an old sweatshirt and leggings, sipping her coffee like any other day, as if nothing had changed, as if our marriage wasn't crumbling into dust. I leaned against the counter, watching her, wondering if she could somehow sense the shift in me, the guilt that should have been eating me alive. But when she finally glanced up at me, all I saw was indifference. Morning, she muttered. That was it. Not hey, are you okay? Not you seemed quiet last night. Not even a glance at the man she had promised to spend forever with. Just morning. I clenched my jaw. Morning. She didn't notice the way my voice was off. She didn't notice me. So why the hell was I still holding on? I thought about Ava. The way she had looked at me, really looked at me. The way her voice had been soft, careful, like she actually gave a damn about whether I was okay. The way her touch had felt like oxygen after years of drowning. I knew what I was doing was wrong. But in that moment, as I watched Olivia sip her coffee and scroll through her phone, I realized something. I had already checked out of this marriage. I just hadn't said it out loud yet. There's a moment in every person's life when they realize they've already crossed the line. Not just dipped a toe over it. Not just tested the edges, but fully stepped across, burned the bridge behind them, and kept walking. I hit that moment a week after the kiss. It wasn't a dramatic event. No big explosion. No screaming match. It was something far worse. It was nothing. Olivia and I hadn't fought since that night in the kitchen, but we hadn't talked either. We existed in the same house like two ghosts haunting separate corners, passing each other in the halls, exchanging brief words only when necessary. Emma's soccer practice is at 6. There's chicken in the fridge. Can you pick up milk? It wasn't a marriage anymore. It was a business arrangement, and I was done pretending otherwise. That's why, when I saw Ava's name flash across my phone late one evening, I didn't hesitate. Ava, can't sleep. I stared at the message, my pulse kicking up. Me neither. Her reply came seconds later. Ava, want to get out of here? I should have said no. I should have put the phone down. I should have stayed home, in this cold, lifeless house, next to the wife who barely noticed my existence. Instead, I grabbed my keys. The moment I saw her, I knew there was no going back. She was waiting outside a small cafe downtown, hands tucked into the pockets of her coat, the glow of the streetlights casting a golden hue over her face. She looked up when I approached, and for the first time in years, I saw something in a woman's eyes that had been missing from my life. Want. She wanted me, and I needed that more than I had ever realized. Hey, she said softly, her lips curving into a small smile. Hey. Neither of us moved. Neither of us spoke. We both knew why we were here, but neither of us wanted to be the first to say it out loud. So instead, I reached out. Just a small movement, my fingers brushing over hers. She didn't pull away. And that was it. That was all it took. The next thing I knew, I was following her down the street, my breath shallow, my heart pounding. Her apartment was only a few blocks away. And with every step I took, I knew I was leaving my old life behind. When she unlocked the door and stepped inside, she turned to face me, her expression open but cautious, as if silently asking, "Are you sure?" I wasn't, but I stepped inside anyway. And when she reached for me, pulling me into her arms, pressing her lips against mine with a hunger that nearly brought me to my knees, I stopped thinking entirely. There was no guilt, no hesitation, only her, only this, only the feeling of finally, being wanted again. And as her hands slid over my skin, as her breath mingled with mine, as we tumbled into the inevitable, one thought rang through my mind loud and clear. There's no going back now. Guilt is a funny thing. It doesn't hit you right away, not when you're tangled up in sheets that don't belong to your wife, not when you're gasping for breath in the arms of someone who actually wants you. No, guilt waits. It creeps in later, in the quiet moments. Like when I walked into my house that morning, the scent of Ava's perfume still clinging to my skin. Like when I saw Olivia sitting at the kitchen table, sipping her coffee, scrolling through her phone like nothing had changed, because to her, nothing had. Like when Emma ran up to me, wrapping her tiny arms around my waist, her voice bright and excited. "Daddy, you're home." That's when guilt wrapped its cold fingers around my throat and squeezed. I forced a smile, crouching down to hug her, my heart hammering in my chest. "Of course I am, sweetheart." She pulled back, grinning up at me. "Mommy said you had to work late again." "You work too much, Daddy." I swallowed hard. Late at work. That's what Olivia had assumed. That's what she had told Emma. Because why would she think otherwise? I looked up at Olivia then, my stomach twisting. She still hadn't glanced up from her phone. She hadn't noticed the way I hesitated. Hadn't noticed the way my hands trembled slightly. Hadn't noticed anything. because she had stopped seeing me a long time ago. And maybe that was the worst part. I told myself I would stop. That night with Ava? It was supposed to be one mistake. A moment of weakness. A release. But the problem with starving for something for 6 years is that once you get a taste, you can't stop craving it. So it happened again. And again. And again. Late nights at work that weren't spent at work. Texts I hid. Excuses I made. And Olivia never questioned a single one. Until she did. It happened one night while I was in the shower. I had left my phone on the bathroom counter, the screen lighting up with a message at the worst possible moment. Ava, I miss you. I didn't hear Olivia walk in. I didn't see her glance at my phone. I didn't know anything was wrong until I stepped out of the shower, a towel wrapped around my waist, and saw her standing there, holding my phone. Her face was blank, too blank. The kind of expression that comes right before the storm hits. I froze. Olivia. She held up the phone, the message still glowing on the screen. Who the fuck is Ava? My stomach dropped. This was it. The moment I had been dreading. I opened my mouth, scrambling for an excuse, a lie, something. But what was the point? She had the proof right in front of her. She knew. And for the first time in years, she actually looked at me. Not through me. At me. Like I was real again. Like she actually cared. And that realization made me furious. Because where the hell had this version of Olivia been for the last 6 years? You want the truth? My voice was quieter than I expected. She's the woman who made me feel human again. Her nostrils flared, and she let out a bitter laugh. Wow. Not even a denial. You could have at least pretended to be sorry. I exhaled sharply, running a hand through my damp hair. I am sorry. Her eyes burned into mine. Are you? I hesitated. And that hesitation was her answer. Something inside her snapped. You absolute fucking asshole. She shoved my phone against my chest, her eyes blazing with something I hadn't seen in years. Emotion, anger, hurt, and just beneath it, something that almost looked like fear. Not of me, of what this meant, of what came next. Because we both knew there was no coming back from this. Olivia wasn't the type to scream. She wasn't the type to throw things, to lose control. But that night, she lost it. How dare you? She spat, pacing the bathroom like a caged animal. You lied to me. You lied to Emma. I clenched my jaw. Don't bring her into this. Oh, fuck you, Nathan. She whirled around, her hands clenched into fists. You don't get to play the concerned father now. Not after this. I swallowed hard. Olivia. She cut me off. How long? I hesitated, and her voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. How long? I exhaled, my chest tight. A few months. She flinched like I had slapped her. Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. Then she laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. You fucking coward. I clenched my fists. Oh, now I'm a coward? I shot back. Where was all this fire, this anger, this fucking attention for the past 6 years, Olivia? Where was this version of you when I was begging you to love me? Her eyes flashed. Are you seriously trying to blame me for you sticking your fist whore? I let out a bitter laugh. Oh, that's rich. Now you care about what I do with my dick. You sure as hell didn't care when you spent 6 years treating me like a roommate. The words hung between us, heavy and final. And I watched it happen. I watched the exact second she stopped looking at me like her husband. Because in that moment, we weren't just fighting. We were done. The next few weeks were hell. We lived in the same house, but we didn't speak. We barely even looked at each other. The tension was suffocating, a ticking bomb waiting to explode. And then, one night, she said the words I had been waiting for. I want a divorce. I stared at her across the kitchen, the words ringing in my ears. I had known this was coming. I had wanted it in a way, but hearing her say it still sent a sharp pain through my chest. I swallowed. Okay. That was it. No fight. No argument. No last-ditch effort to fix something that had been dead for years. Just okay. Because we both knew, this was the only way forward. I packed my bags that night, and as I walked toward the door, Emma peeked around the corner, clutching her stuffed bear. Daddy? Her voice was small, uncertain. My heart shattered. I crouched down, forcing a smile. It's okay, sweetheart. I'm just gonna stay somewhere else for a little while. Her lip trembled. But you'll come back, right? I swallowed past the lump in my throat. I'll always be here, baby girl. But as I kissed her forehead and stood up, Olivia wouldn't look at me. And I knew I wasn't coming back. Not this time. Not ever.